Here at Scribe, our busiest time of year is April, the dreaded year end, and this tends to cause a lot of headaches, mainly because it's only completed once a year and it's really easy to forget what to do. We spend a lot of time at Scribe preparing for year end. We provide training material, discussing how we can help our customers. Hannah, what are your thoughts on year end and how to manage it, really?
Yeah, so I'd agree with all of that, and I know a lot of our users do find year end stressful, and some of that again is down to time. In this instance, there has to be an expectation of an increased time factor to complete all the year end process, the AGAR itself, because there is so much more work to do than in a normal month. So in that case, it's sort of understanding that, appreciating that, factoring that into your workload schedule, whether it be some agreed overtime or changing the way you do things so that you can fit all that in, because there is so much more to do. Once again, I feel like I've gone on about it all morning, but I want to sort of stress how important it is to have your cash book that is up to date, is accurate, all the information is in there, so that once you get to year end, you haven't got loads of months worth of data to go back to enter to reconcile. Because if you're up to date, you've got it all on there, then you've only got that 1 month of March then to look at for data entry, bank reconciliations. Obviously, if you can do a VAT return or claim up to the end of March as well, that's really nice and easy. But then that's a big part of it, is getting all that information to allow you to start working with it there. It's also a really good idea to familiarise yourself with your instructions from the auditor, so you can do that well ahead of time. There's lots of information on their website. You'll also get some details sent through to you nearer the time as well. So understand what level of audit your council will need to complete, what that therefore means you need to do, what process you need to put in place. Understand that beforehand. It might be that if you're a smaller council, so you're going to sit under that £25,000 threshold, you can then look at exempting yourself from audit. So if it's possible that you can do that, and if you've maybe not done that before, understand what process that involves, what you need to do, how you exempt yourself, so that once you come to year end, you're clear in your mind what you can do and how you can do that to speed the process up. Also take a look at the practitioner's guide. That's a really helpful guide. It identifies how to calculate the figures for each box, what goes in where, and helps a lot with actually completing the accounting statements parts of the AGAR. And also be mindful of any changes. So make sure if you are using a practitioner's guide, that you're using the most up-to-date version. So you may not be aware at the moment, but for the year ending, so this current financial year, 2021, when that finishes, what you can include in box 4 for staff cost is changing. So they're removing some of the things that are now allowed to be in there. That includes mileage and travel, home working, training, so things like that. So make sure you're clear on what needs to go in that box. If you've previously included it, not only will you need to update your current account system so that it doesn't include it for this year, but you'll also need to restate last year, so 1920 will need to be restated. So again, that's something that you can do now. You can identify those costs that were currently in box 4 so that you can remove them, and just be clear on understanding that process so that you're sort of ahead of yourself when you do get to the year end. And obviously understanding sort of the deadlines, the process that you need to follow. Clearly they changed a lot because of COVID this year, and we was all up in the air with when the deadlines were going to be, how to sign things off, meetings, etc. Obviously, if this happens again next year and we're not back to normal, then you obviously had this year to sort of learn from, but to think about how to put those processes and complete that year end in sort of a timely manner without the stresses of being right up against those deadlines.
Yeah, so obviously we've talked through and highlighted just a few key issues today, and a few of the problems that we commonly come across and how to overcome them. But all of it, everything that you do throughout the year, all kind of amounts to this dreaded AGAR. And people dread year end for all kinds of reasons, whether it be that they're not getting paid for the extra time that they spend preparing it, which you should, or their ever-changing guidance and formats, which Hannah's just kind of outlined a few of those. So year end for us as a business is probably 10 times busier than any other part of the year. And even for the most experienced clerk out there, this can be a rough time. But I'm going to reiterate Hannah's point here. As long as you're keying the data on regularly, you're keeping it up to date, and you're reconciling monthly, you'll be confident that before you even get to March, that your numbers balance. And in that instance, year end really doesn't have to be that stressful. So with Scribe, I think it's kind of like my favourite thing to show on a demo. And no matter what, if someone's a super accounts whiz and they can do all these other things, you know, undoubtedly at year end, this is where Scribe will come into its own. So it will produce your Section 2 statement of accounts by clicking one button. And I know from customer feedback that is the biggest thing for the majority of people. So the software will produce it for you. It will be in exactly the same format as the AGAR form, so you'll be able to use it as a direct template to populate your boxes. So I sometimes speak to people that are paying an accountant more at year end to do this on their behalf than an annual subscription for Scribe would even cost. And again, it's not just about the fact that Scribe can produce the Section 2 statement of accounts for you. Yes, that's great, it's wonderful, and it does, you know, it can save people days sometimes. But it's about the support, and at year end, like Jane said, her and Hannah start to run the training from January. We do group webinars which focus on sort of different types of accounting. So some of you will be on receipts and payments, but there may be a few of you that need to convert at year end to income and expenditure. Scribe can do both. So whichever way you're doing it, whether you're quite a small council or a large one, Scribe can adapt to meet your needs. And at year end, Scribe will produce a full bank reconciliation report. And again, this is an acceptable format for the AGAR. So you'll be able to apply a date range so that it runs for the entire year, and it's also got the lines for sign off and signature so that you can get the auditor to have a look at those and send them off when you need to. So as I said, even if you're an accounts whiz, at year end, there's no doubt that Scribe is going to save you time. And as well, like Hannah's kind of mentioned about this ever-changing guidance and what numbers can go in which boxes. Yes, Hannah can tell you that, but we also as a company will also, you know, promise to make sure that the software is also up to date with the latest legislation. So councillors can always be confident that the annual return will be accurate and up to date as per the latest advice.